Have you ever wondered why a simple paper cut leaves a permanent mark, but some animals, like salamanders, can literally regrow entire limbs perfectly? Well, what if I told you that you actually have a hidden superpower for perfect, scarless healing, and the only reason you don't use it is because your own body deliberately turns it off? Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a massive medical mystery to unlock the secret of this biological marvel.
Okay, let's dive into this. I know it sounds like straight-up science fiction, but it's entirely true. When you were a developing embryo, your skin had the ability to heal from full-thickness wounds completely flawlessly. We're talking Deadpool levels of regeneration here. Complex organs, hair follicles, sweat glands, muscle fibers, all of it completely rebuilt without a single trace of a scar. But bizarrely, this superpower, it vanishes right around the exact week you're born.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how shocking the contrast is. In a groundbreaking recent study, researchers showed that embryonic wounds perfectly regenerate hair follicles and those crucial fat layers beneath the skin. But in a postnatal wound, one that happens after birth, the healing is totally different. The hair doesn't come back, the fat is just gone, and instead we get this chaotic tangle of purple lines. Those are nerves. The postnatal wound just forms a flat scar and suffers from this really excessive, rampant nerve growth.
So looking at this stark comparison, embryonic healing gives us this pristine result, right? Scarless tissue where perfect hair and fat return. It's literally as if the injury never even happened. Postnatal healing, on the other hand, leaves us with permanent scarring, and those excess nerves we just looked at somehow seem to actually block the healing process, which completely sets up the central mystery we're tackling today. What exactly changes in our biology in those few short days around birth? Like, what steals our regenerative superpower? To really appreciate what we lose, we've got to look at what embryos can actually do. Before birth, when the skin gets injured, it doesn't just patch a hole like slapping duct tape on a leak, it completely rebuilds. It restores the hair follicles, the lymphatic vessels, the melanocytes that give skin its color, and even the tiny muscles and sensory nerves responsible for giving you goosebumps. They all reconnect perfectly. But after birth, all of that beautiful biological complexity is just lost to a featureless scar.
Part 1. The postnatal scarring mystery, finding the cellular culprit.
So we've got a biological whodunit on our hands. To find our cellular culprit, researchers conducted some incredibly heavy-duty detective work. They took skin samples from both embryonic and postnatal wounds and performed single-cell RNA sequencing. By sequencing almost 95,000 individual cells, which is a massive amount of data, by the way, they could look at the unique genetic fingerprint of every single cell involved in the healing process. Basically, they were meticulously searching the scene of the crime for a new cellular suspect. They were looking for a specific type of cell that only shows up in the wounds that scar.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is they found their primary suspect. They discovered a brand new population of cells called postnatal wound-specific fibroblasts, or PWFs for short. In postnatal wounds, these PWFs make up a staggering 60% of the fibroblast population. But in perfectly healing embryonic wounds, zero. They literally do not exist. To put that in perspective, think of a normal fibroblast as the microscopic construction worker of your body. It's a cell that builds connective tissue and helps close up wounds. But these PWFs, they are a total rogue version of the standard construction worker. They only show up on the job site after birth, and instead of just quietly rebuilding the tissue, they start causing major systemic problems in the neighborhood.
So how exactly do these rogue PWFs sabotage the healing process? Well, they've got a weapon. These cells basically flood the wound area with a specific chemical alarm signal, known as CXCL12. You can think of CXCL12 kind of like a biological siren just blaring at the site of the injury, constantly calling out to other systems in the body.
And who responds to that siren? Nerves. That chemical signal causes something called hyperinnervation. It triggers a massive, totally chaotic influx of newly sprouting sensory nerves. Imagine an absurd traffic jam of emergency vehicles flooding a tiny one-lane street. There are so many nerves crowding into the wound space that they physically and chemically distract the body's stem cell construction workers, completely preventing them from rebuilding the hair, fat, and tissue properly.
Let's move to this breakdown and see how this builds into a really devastating biological cascade. First, the rogue PWF cells appear on the wound immediately after birth. Second, they start dumping that CXCL12 chemical signal into the tissue. Third, the sensory nerves rush in, creating that hyperinnervation traffic jam we just talked about. And finally, because of all this absolute chaos, organ-level regeneration is entirely shut down. The skin essentially gives up on rebuilding its complex structures and just slaps a flat scar over the whole mess. Part 2. Hacking the skin's regeneration, silencing the nerves. So here's scientists realized that if they could somehow hack this biological system, they might bring our embryonic superpower back online. They tested this theory using two brilliant approaches. First, they used a very familiar tool, BoNT/A, better known as Botox. By injecting Botox directly into the wound, they temporarily paralyzed the nerves, basically telling their noisy neurotransmitter signals to quiet down. Alternatively, they took a genetic approach, completely removing that CXL12 chemical siren from the skin's fibroblast altogether, so the nerves were never called to the wound in the first place.
And you guys, the results were absolute magic. So, the crucial point is this. When the researchers quieted the nerves or stopped them from rushing in, the postnatal skin completely regenerated. It remembered exactly how to heal itself. The hair follicles came back, the fat layers returned, the skin healed beautifully without a single scar. By simply clearing that biological nerve traffic jam, they proved something massive. Our bodies never actually forget how to regenerate. The ability is just blocked.
This fundamentally changes how we view healing. Imagine a future where severe burns, traumatic injuries, or major surgeries could heal without leaving a single trace. If we can temporarily quiet the nerves using something as simple as localized Botox to restore perfect skin, what else can our bodies regenerate if we just find and remove the right roadblocks? It's an absolutely thrilling frontier in regenerative medicine, and the answers might already be written right there in our DNA. Thanks so much for joining me on today's Explainer, and keep questioning what's possible.